Trustee Redford, Chair. Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
You don't know how wonderful it is for, I know, Ron and me to be here. We miss you so much. We don't regret having moved to the Great Smoky Mountains, but we miss our church and we miss our dear friends here at our church. I see some new faces, so hopefully after the service I'll get to know some of you a little better as well. You know, although I'm no longer pastor of this church, I still get a lot of calls from people who are quite troubled, not necessarily in this church. And our world is troubled. I mean, our country, our world, it's a little scary. And COVID put everything on hold for almost 3 years now. And people developed a lot of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of health issues, fear of what's happening in our world. And you know, when I was a little girl, my mom would read me the story of Chicken Little, who was always galloping around and squawking about the sky is falling. Well, sometimes it does seem that way, doesn't it? But as spiritualists, we know about God's laws, which we call natural law. We absolutely live by the golden rule, as many religions do. They do. It may be worded slightly different, but the golden rule is almost universally known and accepted. And yet, when we are allowing ourselves, because it is our choice, when we are allowing ourselves to be bombarded with all the news, it can get pretty overwhelming. Now, I'm not one who sticks my head in the sand and says, I don't want to know. I want to know what is going on. How can we pray? How can we pray, whether it's for an individual, whether it's for a situation, whether it's for an entire country? And, you know, I will only reference myself in this. Sometimes I think I know it all. Sometimes I'm pretty sure I could straighten this out if I was in charge. Well, I've learned over the years, and continue to learn, that we don't know it all. We have no concept what anyone else is going through, what they personally are facing in their lives, the choices they have made and have brought them to that point in their lives. And who am I to tell anyone else what is best for them? If we go around telling everyone we think we're helping what they need to do, what changes they need to make, where is God in all of that? Who am I to be giving anyone else my wisdom? You know, the more we can encourage people to become closer to God, not to pray specifically for what we want or what we think is best, but for the highest good. You know, we've been given this incredible planet and all the beautiful, beautiful plants and trees and animals and birds, and it's just beautiful. How often do you actually go out your door and appreciate the sunshine, or the overcast so it's not quite so hot, or the nourishing rain? What about the temperature changes? Ron and I are loving the mountains. It's cool. We love it. We understand some people just want to bake in the sun. How about that? Wouldn't it be something if everybody in our nation wanted to live in the same place? Now, a lot of people have done that with Florida. They do want to be in a warm, beautiful, tropical place. And isn't it good? Now, North Carolina's not necessarily been thrilled with flatlanders, because that's what Floridians are, coming up there and paying anything to get a piece of property. It has caused some friction over the years. However, they are finding that just because someone has moved from Florida or some other state, there is a deep, deep appreciation for that part of the country. And we want to be part of it. We don't want to come in and tell them we know better. We want to come in and immerse ourselves in the community. Now, I'm a native Floridian, and I found years ago that some decisions that are made here in Florida would not be at all appropriate up there. And I've seen tremendous growth. Florida just flipped completely over when the theme parks started coming, and I love them. I mean, I'm a little kid at heart. I was raised on Disney cartoons and movies. But it has lost the flavor that I grew up with. So being in a very, very small town in western North Carolina reminds me of the Florida that I grew up in. There are so many churches in that area, so many, and most of them are little and very, very old. It's wonderful. They all have such a great vibration. But the thing that has impressed us is, because it's a small community, if someone has a house fire, if someone is in the hospital for an extended period of time, if, whatever the reason, whatever the cause, whoever is involved, all of the churches rally. That person doesn't have to be a member of any of the churches. One church will have a pancake breakfast. Everything's donated, so all the proceeds go toward that cause. Another church might have a barbecue dinner or an Indian fried bread dinner. Same thing. Everything's donated. Whatever people give goes to that cause. They have singings. You know, there's a lot of gospel music up there. And unbelievably gifted people when it comes to their voices and the instruments that they play. And they will have an event. Proceeds go to whoever is in special need at that time. So you don't see any infighting. You see working together. Because of COVID, many of the children fell behind. They were supposed to be homeschooled. We live in a somewhat depressed area anyway, and we are surrounded by mountains. reception is definitely not good. But the businesses in town who could afford better equipment for their necessary needs as a business opened up to children. The community, businesses and people made sure every student in that entire county had a computer, a laptop, some way to be able to study, some way to be able to get online. The community did everything it could, but as in other states, the children did fall behind. Now think about this. We take so much for granted. I mean, we're human. We're blessed to be Americans. We have a lot, and we are blessed. Some of the children in elementary school, and I know this for a fact because last year and this year I'm a volunteer 4 mornings a week, teaching children how to read. I always thought someday when I retired, I'd like to teach adults to read. Well, God thought differently. God thought we better get them while they're young. So it is the light of my life. I will tell you, it's just the most wondrous thing I've ever done. Getting up that early in the morning is not so wondrous. Ron supports me 100%. He'll have breakfast ready. Many's the morning this year that he went out and scraped the windows of the ice so that I could see, start up the car, have the heater on. I mean, I was getting a little complex for a while. I thought, he's awfully anxious to get me out of the house. He's just a really good man. But he has seen the benefit of it. We went to a small rodeo, and one of my students from last year came up and threw her arms around my waist and sat with us the entire first half of the rodeo. And her parents came over and said, she said she knows you. I said, absolutely, I'm Miss Jeannie, her reading buddy. Oh, okay. Well, they had a intermission type thing, and the family went off to do some other things. Meanwhile, I had been seeing little Dylan sitting up there with an older brother and his dad, and we had been kind of waving at each. He came over like a shot. He sat with us the second half of the rodeo. I saw one of my little students now in the grocery store. Ron and the dog were out in the truck, and I was running in to get 3 things. I'm just going to be a minute. And I was on a dead run, and I came flying by the shopping cart, and I thought, that's Sophie. I turned around and I said, hi. Well, the whole store heard, Miss Jeannie's here. My reading buddy, Miss Jeannie's here. And her parents, you know, I got to meet them. That was nice. You never know whose life you're going to touch. Some people feel they have no value anymore. Perhaps they have, maybe not through their own choice, lost an occupation. Something that we have held on to for years. Some of you may have siblings. I've never had siblings. Our children grow up and have the nerve to want to live their own life, raise their own family. Things change. And it is our privilege and our own responsibility to find something that makes us feel worthwhile, that we can enjoy, that we can help someone else. There's lots of opportunities in our particular area. The library has a used bookstore. They're always looking for volunteers. All the churches, again, have these special things. There is a drug rehabilitation program currently for men, sponsored by one of the churches. And last year, Ron went to the Masons Lodge next to us, and everybody said, oh, they're not going to help. Ron went over because he knows the guys. He mows the grass for them. They had this enormous smoker grill type thing, and it was rusty and nasty. Ron said, can I borrow it? And they said, are you sure? It's pretty disgusting. And Ron said, I'll clean it all up, don't worry about it. Well, yeah, in that case, sure, you can borrow it. It was so big, it was one of those you tow behind a vehicle. He scrubbed that, wire brushed it, painted it, it looked good, and it was certainly clean. And he cooked 250 hot dogs at a huge event to support this men's drug rehabilitation program. He's a hero. He really is. We do things to help other people. And no, I don't keep a tally so I can come here and brag about it. I'm trying to remind each one of you that you may not think you have a talent. You do, if you care. If you care about someone you don't even know. You have a talent. When we look back, and I'm going to quote Joseph Whitwell here, he was the 3rd president of our parent organization, the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. The first thing that happened as word of the Fox sisters and then continued after that as people learned about spiritualism, learned about mediumship, the message always from Spirit was, we are here. We are not dead. We live and love you still. What a comfort that is. What a comfort that is, that reassurance that we're not forgotten, we're not ignored. There have been 3 instances in my family alone, and I have been at other people's bedside just as they passed to Spirit. The things that they see, the things that they hear, you can just see them light up. It's a glorious thing, and it doesn't seem to matter if they've been very religious all their life or never believed in God at all. When people are right down to the wire and they know they're very, very close, sometimes they get a little nervous, you know, is it really going to be like that? When you're at the deathbed of someone, you can see it in their faces. Whether they were expecting it or not, you can see the light and the joy. It removes that fear of death. It allows us to know they're all right. It allows us to know we're going to be all right. Some religions teach and preach a lot of fear. And when I was a little girl, I was raised in some of those, depending on where we lived. And even as a little girl, I thought, how can we have a loving God, but he's so punishing? You know, if I even want to dance, I'm going to be punished. That just didn't make sense to me. Well, spiritualism focuses on hope and joy and self-knowledge and self-responsibility. We don't fear God. We don't fear Satan. I do know nothing is more powerful than our Creator. Whether you call that being God, infinite intelligence, eternal spirit of love and light, many other names. It's not something, it's a creative force. And we were created. We're part of that. We're part of everything and everyone. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? President Whitwell also mentioned humanity's search for God and God's search for humanity. Well, his exact quote was mankind, and I'm just enough of a feminist, I like to say humanity rather than mankind, because I always, again, from being a little girl, thought, what about us? My mom's a wonderful lady, what about us? We know the world is what we make of it. It's not all going to be sunshine and flowers, unfortunately. When we have an issue, what do we learn from it? Do we become a victim and say, I didn't ask for this, I don't deserve this, why did this happen to me? It happened. Learn from it. You never know what experience you're going through is not only going to strengthen you, but help someone or ones down the road another time. We can never say, I know exactly how you feel, because we don't. We don't. Everyone experiences things differently. But we can say, I've been through something very similar, and I got through it, and you will too. Let people who love you know what you need. We're here to help one another. We're here to love one another. One of the founders of our church, dear Jim McConnell, might say, I might not like that person or their actions, but I love them. And isn't that the truth? We can have that unconditional love. We need that in our world more than ever. Don't ever feel helpless. Don't ever feel alone. And don't ever feel that you have to do some big, elaborate thing to help save the world. Recycle a plastic bottle. Do little things. Don't leave the lights turned on all over the house. Be kind. Be kind. Gentlemen, hold the door for a lady. Ladies, hold a door for a gentleman. Do it for everyone. It just astounds people. It really does. Be kind. Love one another. That's the greatest lesson of all. Thank you.